You're listening to today's inspirational message on the Proverbs with Kurt Bjorklund.
So we talk about security, the juxtaposition of the name of the Lord, verse 10, is a strong tower. The righteous man runs into it and is safe, versus our attempts at security. There's a verse that seems really odd, and it's the verse 22 that says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." Now, clearly, if you're just reading through the Proverbs and letting each verse jump out at you as it needs to, this verse stands alone. But when you think of it as security, then it feels a little out of place because it seems like everything's contrasted to trust in God. But notice it says that they obtain favor from the Lord. And so this verse seems to be saying that when and if you find a wife, it's a good thing. Now, we need to remember this book was written to young men, so I think it's fair to say a spouse today. But specifically young men, finding a wife is a good thing. And the word good here is the word tov in Hebrew. And it means enjoyable or fortunate. It describes what's pleasing to God, what's beneficial for life, what's abundantly enjoyable. The New English translation says, "The one who finds a wife finds what is enjoyable and receives a pleasurable gift from the Lord." And pleasurable here is the word ratzon, and it means pleasing in a sense. And so what does this have to do then with security? What I think it drives to is that marriage, from a human standpoint, is one of the best securities we can have. And here's why this is true. If you live and move in this world and you're in a good place in a marriage relationship, you can endure a lot of difficulty in the world. And if you are in a place where there is not a healthy marriage relationship, then whatever else is happening in the world feels a little off in our lives. And so the idea here, I think, in saying that this is a good gift from God, is that it's really pointing to this idea that this is one of God's good gifts because this is one of the ways that God gives us just his goodness in our lives. Now, you may say, well, I don't have a spouse, so this isn't really helpful to me. This isn't really encouraging to me. And that's certainly understandable. All I would say to this is, if God gives you this, then rejoice in God's grace, express gratefulness. If you're married poorly, understand that it could have the opposite impact. And if you're single, then try to learn what's important in marriage from people whose marriages you respect so that you can find a spouse if and when you start to date that will be somebody who's most helpful to you. I want to return to this verse 10 about the fortified tower. And the reason I want to return to this is because, again, this is I think, kind of the theme of this chapter about saying the Lord is the one who brings us security. A fortified tower was a safe place in a time of attack. And all of us will have a place that we use as our fortification. Something about which we'll say, well, if I don't have that, then I don't feel right. I don't feel good. I don't feel secure. In some places it's money, in some places it's alliances, in some places it's just our pride. But what this is saying is that the wise person runs to the name of the Lord and they deliberately say, this is where I go. And one of the things that this proverb seems to indicate is that God gives the gift of a spouse to help us with that sense of security. And when our spouse points us to the Lord, and this is why it's important to always be in a relationship with somebody else who seeks God as well, what happens is together you run to the tower of the Lord and instead of away, and it becomes a source of security and goodness in your life. So He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Don't apologize if you're single and looking and saying, I want God's favor in this area. Be grateful if you have it. And if you're in a unhappy marriage, do what you can to bring about change.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.